Welcome to another edition of Viper Voices as we continue to chat with Viper alumni, and we managed to track down a very busy man, a very important man in the Lower Mainland. You may remember him as the goalie that backstopped the team to a second consecutive national championship. Graeme Gordon joins us. Graeme, thanks for taking the time.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I was just watching the Jonesies the other day. I saw him chirp me, so I know I had to get on here and shoot back.
Yeah, chance at rebuttal. That's the greatest form of redemption. Well, we really appreciate you taking the time. I mean, we'll get to, what you're up to these days and all of that sort of thing. But it's been very cool to get a chance to catch up with former Vipers, especially ones that had such big impacts on a couple of big runs for the organization. Maybe we'll start from the beginning, from North Van. Obviously, the Lower Mainland, a pretty significant hockey market. Canucks, minor hockey all the way through. What was it like playing minor hockey back in the day in North Vancouver?
It was fun, man. It was a lot of fun. There's kind of the dudes my age from the North Shore, like the 89s, 90s, 91s, like insane talent group. Just so many guys locally are, in the show, in that group, like Jordan Wheel, Martin Jones, like so many guys. So it was a lot of fun just to play against those guys at a young age. And so it was fun bragging rights to go, I stopped that guy in a B-way or something like that. But it was a lot of fun. North Van was not the best program, I guess, or we just weren't the best team. We kind of got our butts whooped by the clubs a lot. So that kind of prepared me for my time in the BCHL when I was with Merritt, getting our butts whooped there. So it's a hot start, but it was a lot of fun.
You're the first goalie we've had on the show. It's always interesting. I've got a 6-year-old who loves hockey, wants to be a goalie. I kind of go like this.
Sorry.
It's an interesting breed. It's a great position. But growing up, did you sort of know that it was a position that you wanted to be in, or did you sort of dabble at some of the other positions in hockey before you settled on being a goalie? And did your parents try to talk you out of it?
Oh yeah, my dad definitely tried talking me out of it when he saw the price tags on the pads. But I don't. It's just one of those things that I kind of volunteered for, like 6 or 7. They just kind of rotate through the goalies, and I volunteered for it. I liked it. I was pretty good at it, so I kind of just figured. And then another thing that drew me to it too was just the custom pads, man. There's something about that when I was a kid. I was just like, oh yeah, I want to be able to do that. And I think I made 1 or 2 big saves when I was super young, and it got a reaction from the crowd. And I went, okay, I like this. So yeah, it's just something about it. I mean, everybody says we're weirdos, which is not completely wrong on that, but I like to think that I'm one of the more level goalies.
Well, we'll talk about that. I mean, there's some chances for rebuttal, as you said, from former teammates and whatnot that you've had a chance to see. But you end up 06, 07. It seems like an interesting year. Sort of going back through your profile, you get 1 game with Williams Lake, but you're playing with the North West Hawks. I believe that's Major Midget.
Yeah.
You're sort of at that age group. I mean, what was it like specifically for you? Did you get Western League interest? Was there any thoughts between you and your family about which route you want to take? Obviously, you go the BCHL route, but was there, an allure to perhaps go a different level, or did you kind of know that this was the way you wanted to go?
Not really for the Northwest Giants back in the day is what we were called, but I know they've switched that recently. But just with my parents, they were always pretty focused on academics. So I think from like a young age, maybe 13, 14, I kind of knew that I wanted to go the college route. And so dub was never really something I considered that much. I knew I wanted to play junior hockey and then hopefully move on to college.
What was it like in order to get recruited? So you get the 1 game with Williams Lake. I mean, for a young guy, an opportunity to play. I know Williams Lake obviously not in the league anymore, but the goals against average was about 5. What was that experience like for you? I know, again, sorry to throw that at you, but, a chance to get yourself into a game. What was that experience like? Do you remember it?
That was pretty fun. I think I went up to the puddle just on maybe a Thursday. I got to miss school, so that's always sweet. I think it was maybe it was in Prince George we played, or maybe it was in the puddle. I'm not sure. Not a good team back then. I think that was the last year they were in the league before they folded and then kind of came back. But it was just, I don't know, it was just good to get in there and play. I did get dummied, and it was kind of an eye opener of just how much better, it was than Major Midget, the speed, and just, you know, it was good thing. It was a good experience to have, and then got back that year to the Northwest Giants, and we just kind of had that from the experience. Just had a pretty sweet playoff run. So I think that kind of helped in the long run as well. But yeah, I was definitely experienced. You know, you get the bus underneath you and you go. I mean, it's Williams Lake. I don't want to chirp them too much, but you know, compared to the Vipers facility with the, you know, so it was,
I
it
never
was room
got a
for
chance.
improvement.
Yeah, well, I never got a chance to take in the Williams Lake facility, but my predecessor and good friend Todd Miller tells me that you know, there are some better and not very many worse. But what
Yeah. Tony knows. Yeah.
you sort of go into the off season though, and I mean, what's the recruitment process like for? You know, we talked to some of the American kids or the kids that got recruited as APs and whatnot, but you know, in 07, 08, you end up starting with Salmon Arm. What was the off season like in terms of recruitment? You AP'd with Williams Lake. Now you get an opportunity to crack the Silverbacks roster. Were they on you right away, or what was the wooing period like for you?
That's a while back, man. I gotta think. I had, like I said, we had a pretty successful playoff run. We went to the TELUS Cup in my final year, which is like the RBC, but for midget hockey. And I think they were scouting me there. That was when the Davidsons were running it. Ty, and then his dad was the owner. So they talked to myself and my buddy after that. We just kind of got invited out to the camps, and eventually made the team. So that was a nice place to. I know they're kind of rivals, but that was a nice place to start. And the Davidsons had a good thing going there. So.
Was there a wake up and a welcome to the BCHL moment? You know, you get that one game in Williams Lake the year before, but you ended up playing. I think I had you down for 24 games played, and you know, the first half of the year with Salmon Arm. What was the dynamic like for you? And did you get more starts than you thought you might? And what was that sort of, you know, holy cow, junior hockey is a completely different animal than what you were used to?
Well, with that the kind of wake up call in Williams Lake, I put in a decent amount of work with my goalie coach back then, Sean Murray, Rob Fuchs, pro goal here in Vancouver. Put in the work, was ready to go, and got off to a super hot start in Salmon Arm. I didn't really know if I was going to be the backup or the starter when we got there, but it was another rookie goalie, Jason Horseman from Shattuck. And Shattuck always kind of has that like allure around their recruits, but we had a good battle. I think eventually I kind of had the starting gig for a bit there. And then there was that ownership change, and when ownerships changed, they want to bring in their own guys. So we kind of got a new coach, and things didn't super work out with him. So that's kind of when things ended up, you know, getting topsy-turvy. But I think my very first start, I got a shutout. So that was pretty cool. I think we maybe won 7 straight games. Like, we were a really good team. I think we were number 1 in Canada for first couple of weeks there. So it was a good start, and things were rolling, and that was pretty key for my confidence there.
What was it like leaving home? You're a Vancouver guy, North Vancouver guy. No disrespect to the mainland people, but I grew up there for a little bit. A lot of people don't like to leave there, and when they do, sometimes it takes them a while to get acclimated to you know, different community, different environment. What was it like for you to do with that at a young age and still have to play hockey at a pretty high level?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm a North Van kid, so I don't even like to cross Ironworkers Bridge to go into downtown. I don't like to leave ever. So it was definitely a bit of a wake up, like just kind of a shock to the system, just going, okay, I'm not, you know, I got to be sort of an adult here. I gotta take care of myself. But I had wicked billets there. I had a great roommate, Ronnie Smith, kind of took me under the wing a little bit there. And so it takes some getting used to, for sure. I mean, I think the hardest part was when I got traded out of Salmon Arm, and I had to sit around, you know, for 2 days by myself while my dad drove up to grab me and bring me back to the mainland. That was, you know, that's not a fun experience. That's kind of a lonely experience when you're away from home. But you know, I'd like to say I crushed it, but there was probably some nights where I was missing back home for sure.
What was the transition like? I mean, you mentioned the trade. You end up in Merritt later on in that year. What sort of happened in between? You mentioned the ownership changeover, but sitting idle for a couple of days before your dad came up to get you. What was that little window of time like before you ended up joining the Sens? And I've worked in Merritt before. I mean, what was that process like for you before you ended up in the Nicola Valley?
It was super weird, man. When I remember like getting traded, and you know, it's part of the game, right? But when you're a kid, you take it so personal. And I remember sitting there. He goes, "We're trading you," and he goes, "Anywhere you want to go." And I told him I want to go to the Vipers. And if you're going to trade me, I want to go to the rival. I want to go to a good team. That didn't happen. I went to a team with 4 wins. But I remember sitting at home for a couple of days. My dad was making calls around, seeing what was going on. I think he might even talk to Ferns at one point. They didn't get me then, but eventually was able to get there. But I was just happy to play again when I got the call from Merritt, because I was sick of sitting around. So just, it doesn't matter where it was. I was happy to be able to get the chance to play and prove myself again. But it's a weird experience when you just kind of rip from your boys and the team in the middle of the season, and then you're just back home sitting on your ass wondering what you're going to do.
You end up in Merritt. You talked about the record obviously not being very good. So take us within that. I mean, it's for a couple, it's winning is obviously the most important thing, but getting an opportunity to play has to be, right behind that. Did you and that group put too much stock in the results at that time, or at that time were you just trying to, become better hockey players? Because there was some pretty good competition, and that win-loss record sure did not go your way.
We were just trying to survive, man. That was that's some of the wildest experiences in hockey, and traumatic experience kind of brings the boys closer together. We got dummied every night. I mean, you were making fun a little bit to the Williams Lake 5-0 loss. We lost the game 14-1 one time. I was in Merritt as the only goalie the second half of the season. I didn't have a backup, and I had 2 pulled groins and got roasted. I think in the 9 or something, like 14-1. We maybe, I think, 6 wins the entire year. So yeah, we were not worried about the win-loss record. We were just trying to, play as best we can. Hopefully, look good for the scouts in the stands, and try to escape Al Glendenning's tongue lashings at the end of every game. So just playing to play and try to have as much fun as we could at that point, really.
Hindsight being what it is, when you look back on it, say present day, Graeme looks back on it, what sort of things do you learn from an experience like that? I mean, it's something that not everybody gets a chance to go through, and probably don't really want to go through. But what does an experience like that do for a person? Hindsight being what it is, how does that, maybe that 1.5 year window where things weren't going well in Merritt, how did that sort of help you, not only as a hockey player but as a person?
I think, adversity is good for anybody, right? You just kind of figure out life's not always going to be the way you want it to be, but you just kind of put your head down, grit your teeth, do the work, and try to have some fun while you're doing it as well. And like I said, I had a great relationship with a lot of the guys there. Made some really great friends in Merritt, and you just work through it, man. And I don't. I look back. I know I chirp Merritt a lot because it's easy to do, but I had a lot of fun there. My billets were great there. It's a solid community. I still remember the calzones that you would get when you win Player of the Month. Savor those things; they're so good. So yeah, I mean, it was looking back, it was a tough experience, but it is a good experience. I'm glad I went through it for sure.
You got a chance to go back. You started this next season, 08-09, with the Centennials, 4 games, and then that was it. I mean, when you were preparing in the offseason, did you know that maybe a move was coming? Did you, without sounding too arrogant or anything, but did you hope a move was coming, or were you just going back to try to prove yourself again, thinking that maybe the year before couldn't be as bad as it was?
Yeah, a little bit. The last one, I was talking to Glendo during, our exit meetings. He said, "Hey, look, I know this was tough. This is a tough year, but we're going to try and get better for next year." And so I went in thinking, okay, hopefully, we'll try and get better. And I got to camp the next year, and I pretty quickly I sat down with them and I went, "Look, I don't think this is the spot for me." They had brought in another attendee at the point. I forget his name, Harrison maybe last, but it just didn't feel comfortable there. And I just had an honest conversation. I went, "Look, I'm trying to get a scholarship. I'm trying to do all these things, this and this, and I don't think this is the place for me to do it." And he was very receiving and gracious. He said, "You know what? Fair enough, Gordo. You did a lot for us last year. We'll look for a good spot to ship you out." So it took a couple games there, but eventually got the call from Ferns.
And that was your 19-year-old year. I mean, for a lot of people, that's sort of the make or break year. It's
yeah.
So what was that like for you? The process of getting traded. I mean, you mentioned you wanted to go to Vernon when you left Salmon Arm. you get the call. I mean, that's got how excited were you to end up on that team? And again, you don't necessarily know that at the time, but this is a team that's going to win a national championship, and you get to be a part of it. But just the opportunity to play for that franchise had to be exciting.
Yeah, I was really excited, and like I said, at Ferns, it kind of, maybe not to me, but I don't know if this is tampering, but he's not coaching, so it's fine. He talked to my dad and said that they wanted me. So they sounded really excited to get me, and Vernon was already doing pretty well, and so I was just excited to go play for a good franchise. And Vernon's a great spot. I've got family up there. I vacationed in the area before when I was a kid. And just the facility is top notch. So I was really excited to get there. And I think Hammy was on the squad at the time, and so I had Hammy being another Lower Mainland guy. We had trained together in the summers and stuff. So I knew Hammy pretty well, and I knew he was a great goalie, and I knew that when this is an opportunity, like I'm going to have to battle for my playing time. So that it was all just a really exciting prospect.
You end up getting into, I think, 17 or 18 games with Vipers in the regular season. How did that relationship with Hammond help you going forward? I mean, again, you're coming from, getting traded the year before to being on a team that struggled quite a bit. Did you sort of have to learn the systems a little bit more? And I don't know if this is even fair to say, but maybe learn how to win a little bit more and what it's like to know that every game you've got to compete, not just to stay in the game, but to actually win the hockey.
Yeah, I mean, it was Hammy for sure. He was just a fun guy to watch, just how calm he was. I'm the kind of guy it gets a little bit psycho, and I need to really rev myself up. But Hammy is just super even keel, relaxed guy, and his positioning was so good. Like his chest was in front of almost every puck. I kind of played a little more of an athletic game and would be sliding all over the place. So I learned not well enough, because if you watch my highlight tape, that my rebounds are just everywhere. But I did learn a little bit to get just to stay even keel and work on my body position. And Hammy was just, he was so good that year. He was lights out. So just when he's bringing that game up, you got to try and match and just keep bringing it up. So it was just a good atmosphere to get better.
And that, talking with the Jones twins, talking with Chris Crowell, I mean, it seemed like a pretty special group that year in 08, 09. We talked about the playoff run and, how they knew that just winning the league wasn't obviously good enough. It was sure one of the 4 check marks that you wanted to get. You're sort of along for the ride. I mean, you didn't see too much action in the playoffs, but, take us sort of within to how much fun a playoff run like that is. You'd rather be playing, no question, but to just sort of watch and sort of learn from all of these guys had to be pretty special.
It was, man. It was a lot of fun. And of course, I'd be kidding myself if I said I didn't, of course I wanted to play. But again, hindsight looking back, I'm honestly glad I had that experience of just sitting on the bench and being with the boys for the whole game. I mean, I didn't play at all in playoffs. I think I maybe played one RBC game, got lit up for like 4 or 5. But just being on the bench was so much fun. Me and Hoon, the equipment, Gord Cochran, the trainer, we were hanging out. We were bench buddies. I mean, if you ask the boys, I didn't shut up for an entire game. I was always, I'd find a way to get involved. I'd chirp the other guys. I'd try to be a cheerleader on the bench. So that really was a fun experience, and it's fun to be there with the guys when we score a big goal in a playoff series or something like that. And it was a lot of fun being on the bench. It's frustrating, but at the same time, you just make the best of it. And, when Hammy was playing the way that he was, it's not like, I wasn't sulking going, I'm a terrible goalie. I'm just along for the ride. And it was a lot of fun. That was such a special group, man. It was just so fun being with those boys every day.
You've been known as a guy who likes to keep it light, and we've sort of got that vibe already from this part of the interview, like keeping it light, keeping it fresh, and keeping it fun. I mean, it seemed to be something that you sure helped with. I know a couple of guys shared some stories about some mirror interviews or something that you're doing in the league final against Powell River, just some fun stuff to keep it loose. How much pride do you take in that when pressure's at its highest, to be able to, lighten the mood a little bit without, obviously the distraction that can sometimes follow?
Yeah, it's, I was kind of a class clown on teams kind of thing, but then I show up at the Vipers and there's Pimmer, and I go, oh, wow, this guy's leading the league in tomfoolery. But it was, you just kind of pick your spots and just keep things light. And we had just great relationships with all the guys. You could chirp each other and nobody's going to take it, to heart. It's just good banty with the boys in the locker room. And that Powell River thing, I'm trying to remember it. I maybe a couple years ago, those things popped up on my Facebook. I think they're probably gone now, but it was back when the very first face filters came out. And I remember doing one with Cameron Brody. I was flicking through them in the hotel room, Powell River with Hammy, and this big chin one pops up, and I go, that's Broads right there. A handsome man, but a unit of a chin. So we just we found some more, and I think I made one on Pimmer. I did one as a couple of the boys. It was just fun, and just another way to keep it light. I mean, you're in a hotel room in Powell River. What else you can do? You got to have some laughs with the boys. So looking back, there's just a lot of laughs.
You got a chance to witness some crazy history in the national championship final. Talking with Chris Crowell about it, he gets ejected in the first period. 2 other guys ejected. You guys end up winning 2-0. What's going through your mind when you're on the bench witnessing what you hope is going to be a national championship win, and you see, if not the heart and soul of your group go down early? I mean, what was it like? I mean, take us through what it was like on the bench when things like that happened, and the response that obviously followed with a win.
Yeah, well, that was such a holy shit moment when Crow got canned there. That was in the first period, if I remember correctly, right? Yeah, it was very early on. He gets canned, and that such a heart and soul dude. Like, I'd still go to war for that guy if he asked me to. He doesn't need me to, because look at these noodles. He's fine, but he absolutely was the heart and soul, and that was crushing on the bench for a second there. I think the rest of the period was kind of flat. It was kind of weird. And then Santana got booted as well at 2:20s. And you see those guys in the locker room, like Crow was absolutely devastated. I mean, you could tell how much that meant to him. We know how much that meant to him. So I think that kind of kicked in a little resolve, and we got to do this for Crow and Sants, these 20s. This is their last game. We can't let it end with a loss. So it's for sure a rallying point.
You get the championship. You get it in Victoria. Did you bring any family over? Because Victoria from North Van, not that far to go. Did your family?
Harry. Yeah, I had my folks in the crowd. I think my sister was there as well, and I think a couple people that were going to UVic at the time, a couple friends. So it was really cool. Just a lot of fun to do that kind of close to home. I mean, they're not watching me, but again, just a lot of fun. I remember the celly. I remember when that final horn goes and the twigs were flying in the air. I think one of the Jonesies was bleeding at one point because we chucked our dick so high. It was buzzing, man. That was a crazy game.
What do you remember about the off season? I mean, it doesn't happen as much as it used to, or it doesn't happen now as much as I'm sure it used to, where the guy who rides shotgun for a season in goal comes in, becomes a starter, and takes it from there. It doesn't happen all the time anymore with guys going to college a lot of times at 18. Sometimes 19 and not returning for the 20. You come back for 09-10. Off season like for you? Were you, hindsight being what it is, were you talking to any schools? Was Division I on the radar yet, or was this last season going to be an opportunity to prove yourself?
I did not have much on the radar. No, there was kind of towards the end of the season of the 08-09 one. I went, all right, this is Hammy's. This is Hammy's show, and next year it's going to be my show. So I just got to do the same. And I remember Hammy, he got his Scully maybe in the second round of playoffs. And so I was trying to follow that blueprint. I'll put in the work in the summer. I was training with Hammy a little bit as well, because we had the same goalie coach. And I put in the work, and I knew the team we were going to have coming back was just stupid stacked. I mean, if you talk to Ferns, he'll say that he was building for us to win the RBC in 2010. Like 09 was just a sweet thing that kind of happened when he built it up the end there. But he was stacking up the team for 2010, and that team was so nasty. I knew I just had to put in the work, and we could do the whole thing over again.
Pretty crazy record for you to only win 5 games in merit that year, to win 30 in 09-10. And it is the craziest thing. The Jones twins talked about it, and Dave Robinson talked about it too. They talked about a slow start. I don't know how you can finish with 5 or 6 or 7 regulation losses and consider anything a slow start. What do you remember about the beginning of 09-10 and coming in and for you taking over the reins as the starting goaltender?
Well, that's the thing, right? Technically, I don't think we did have a slow start. I think we won a bunch off the hopper, but for us, it was slow because we weren't playing our best hockey. We were kind of lackadaisical. We maybe had a bit of that championship hangover. We were still winning games, but it wasn't up to our standard. It wasn't good enough hockey. And that, I think that was really healthy for us because Ferns just kept coming in and reiterating, guys, you got to be your best every single night. You're the defending champions, and everybody wants to knock you off. So once we kind of got that drilled in our head, we just went from there. And yeah, we went. What did we win? 50 plus? Decent.
51, 52, I think.
Yeah, decent.
Pretty good. When your backup goalie's got as many wins as a lot of teams get in a year, you're playing pretty good hockey. What was the relationship like with your next goaltending partner? I mean, again, for you, watching what Hammy was doing the year before and learning from that and getting a chance to play when you could, what was it like to sort of switch roles and have somebody do the same for you?
Vother's a great kid, man. He's a little quiet, but just a pretty funny kid and nice to have him around. And he was great too. I think he set maybe the goals against average record that year. He was nasty. He was playing well, and that's something that pushed me as well. And I gotta mention a quick Hammy story here before we get more into the season. RBC 09, either morning of or night before, we're either getting in bed, getting out of bed. He looks at me, he goes, "Hey, Gordo, I think I got a shutout in me. I'm gonna do one more." So he called his shutout RBC final game of junior. That's just the most baller move I've ever seen. I just looked, "Oh, yeah?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm going to get a shutout tonight." I went, "Okay." And he did it. Sick. Vother, but again, yeah, Vother was he's a great guy. Great pads, too. Guy had good style.
It was how much of that goes into it? That's interesting comment. I mean, you mentioned you like the pads, the swag. You had the painted mask. You had the dark pads. Take us to the goaltending philosophy. Goaltender coaches these days, they like white because it blends in with the mesh. Even current goalie coach of the Vipers says the same thing. He'd prefer, the white look. But for you, chance to yourself. Why not?
I'm a style boy, man. You got to style it out. You look good, you feel good, you play good. That's how it goes. It's I don't know. I've just always loved having just kind of the flashier style pieces. That's I don't know. I'm loud. That's how it goes. But that's always been a big part. I've always loved doing that kind of custom stuff.
Is it hard being a goaltender in front of a really good team, a team that wins 6 times, where, technically you could probably play at 75% of your capabilities and still get a bunch of wins? You don't face a lot of shots. You're out shooting teams. You're outscoring teams. You probably got to lead early almost every night. How difficult is that?
It's a lot harder than you think. Yeah, there were a lot of nights where I was maybe like 75, 80% because, again, coming from, playing as a kid in North Van, I was facing like 40, 50 shots a night. We weren't that great a team. And then the year before, or, a couple years before in Merritt, the same kind of thing, 40, 50 shots. You've got to be so just mentally tuned in for that it's kind of exhausting. It's hard to stretch out for 40, 30, whatever games, however many I started that year. So when you get, maybe 17 shots, 22 shots in a game, but you get maybe a couple solid scoring chances, you're a little bit asleep because you haven't seen a puck for 6 minutes because Joneses and Giller have been cycling for whoever knows how long. It's ridiculous. You're like, all right, get a little cold down here. And then, get one and maybe they slip a greasy one. I'm sure there's some fans that remember I've let in a few greasy of my own. So it is tougher than it looks. But again, that team was so good. I just had to, find a way to make the occasional big save or two, and the boys would do the rest.
Interesting playoff run, because I've got it all listed down, and being today is what it is. We've chatted about this playoff run before, the 09-10 one. You get Quesnel in the first round of the playoffs, and everybody sort of talks about, I think you guys went down 0-2 or something to that effect. There was at least a split. You get the Millionaires in the first round. What do you remember about that? Some of the guys have been talking about that was almost one of the most difficult series to sort of get into. Do you remember much about that one?
Yeah, well, we had the bye. I think we won the first game, and then the next 2 we maybe struggled. I know that I was dog shit for a couple games. I got pulled for a game or 2, I think, there, and that really made me, refocus and get my head on straight. And that was a good thing. Ferns kind of, had a chat with me. But Quesnel was a good team, man, and they had Kirby Hallcrow in net. He was a stud. Tendy, he's a big guy. They had some big bodies and some talent as well. So that was a bit of a grind. 2+ playing in Quesnel. That's a tough barn to be in with, they got big bodies and they were throwing them around. So it for sure was a tough series, but definitely one that set us up for, kind of once we got over the bumps there, it set us up for success down the line, I think.
One of the most fun rivalries I've ever been a part of that was about to get renewed this year. Unfortunately, due to everything that happened, it didn't. But I've been with the Vipers for 7 years now. The first 4 or 5, it was the Vipers and it was the Vs. And that was the way it always needed to be. One team had to go through that in order to have success. And the year before, you guys had to go through them and were successful. Another year, another talented Penticton team, and you guys get to go head-to-head. You guys end up getting the 6-game series win. But how much do you enjoy a series like that where you're up against a team that is, I don't want to say as talented as yours, but right there? And how much fun was that series?
Oh, yeah, they were super talented. I mean, Sean Bonner is another kid kind of local that I've trained with here is their goalie. He was nasty. He was kicking every night. They had I think Bo Bennett, Denver Manderson. Like they were a solid team, and that was a great series. I wouldn't say that we really ever had any doubts, but there were some back and forth games, and the one that sticks out to me is the Game 5 triple overtime. I think when we, that one was kind of we thought we were going to be able to end it that night in 5 and kind of just say see you to the V's and be done with them, and then triple OT comes and they get that goal, but we go back Game 6 and beat them there. So that one, I remember Game 6 was we just took it to them, man, wave after wave. The boys were going, and I think we ended that one pretty early. So it was definitely a great series. But yeah, it's just I don't know, man. I'm a goalie. I stop pucks. The guys in front of me do the take the checks and stuff like that. So I couldn't tell you which team's tougher, which team's not. But they were a very talented team, and I'm happy to beat them too. Because what's a V even? Baby Peach, get out of here.
Oh yeah, we've had that question's been up for debate for years. I mean, take us to that triple overtime game. Dave Robinson remembers it pretty vividly because I think he told us that he was the one that got beat in the corner. And
Did he?
I mean, that's his recollection of it. At that point, when you enter overtime games like that, how much fun is a game to play like that? Just where any mistake is absolutely magnified, and in your position, you almost take that tenfold.
Yeah, that was such a game, and that's such a fun game, and that's one of those games that I'm really comfortable with because I think that the shots ended up being, in the 60s for each team, and I remember we were crushing Mars bars and Kit Kats in between OT periods, trying to keep the blood sugar up and everything like that. If Dave got beat, it was me cheating off the post too that hurt us because I do remember it came out of the corner. I think it might have been one of the more slippery guys, maybe a Bennett, and he was coming around the net like he was going to do a wraparound, and then he does a little cute behind the back pass, and I'm looking this way, and the puck's going in the net behind me. So that was certainly deflating, but we were maybe angry for about 10 minutes and just on to the next because that's just kind of how we were programmed.
The Powell River series, boy, that one's got a lot of memories for a lot of different people. I know fans here still talk about that series. And, I mean, for you to be in Vernon, I mean, I've done the travel. I'd like to talk about the travel in a series like this because doing it and winning in 5 or 6 or sweep, I mean, that's one thing like they would do after 7 games against one team when the travel takes minimum 12 hours. And you've already played 2 very physical rounds of hockey. How'd you guys sort of cope with that and sort of deal with the pressures of a very good Powell River team?
Yeah, certainly a grind. I mean, we'd known them kind of from the year before in the Freddie Page finals, right? But kind of a same team, but a little different this year. We'd only play them twice or something regular season, and the travel for sure a grind. Duncan Ray, I mean, absolute gem. He actually got us a plane, so we didn't have to do the busing for. I don't know if it was for every game down there, but I think we took one of those little kind of planes, and I remember sitting next to Adam Thompson, nervous flyer. He had a full palm of sweat, just coming over the brim, just boiling over because he was nervous flyer. But that's the kind of the stuff that Dunk did to take care of us and make sure that we were rested and could be at our best. So I'd say that certainly did help. But again, yeah, that's a grind, man. Powell River's far away.
There's two moments in that series that stand out among the most. They happen to come pretty close to each other. You're synonymous now for one of the greatest moments in Viper history. Say there's a top 5, a top 10. Your save in Game 7 is probably right up there, at least in the top 5, maybe even the top 3 of most memorable moments. And that's not saying that. I wasn't even there. So, I mean, that's coming from other people. You have to walk us through what you remember. People still to this day don't understand how you made the save that you did. And, again, that's one of, if not one of the biggest moments that Viper history can hold.
Yeah, I mean, that's my favorite goalie when I was a kid was Dominic Hasek. So just make the save any way possible. And I took a lot of that and kind of prided myself on being athletic. But I remember coming down my left wing glove side, Krauser's there, and that guy blocks everything. He blocks something with his teeth if he had to. He's such a great defenseman back there. Love having him in front of me. The shot, it gets through kind of a crowd of bodies. It hits Krauser maybe in the shinny or the skate, and then it shoots off to the right side. And I think it was Nittery that was coming down, and he had just gotten off the bench, so nobody was really picking him up. I thought the shot was going to come through, so I was down on my butterfly, and I just sort of reacted and Supermaned it through my whole body over there, and I got it. I actually had a bruise after the game. I got it kind of on that little soft spot where there's nothing. Hit off the post, and then did a little flip over, and yeah, I was just very relieved it wasn't in the back of the net.
That's a game saver, and it turned out to be I guess a couple minutes later, Sahir Gill scores, right up with your moment, his moment right there too. I mean, is there any self-reflection after he scores to put you guys up, or did you even have chance to process that the save you just made probably had a direct impact on the fact that you guys now had a lead and a good chance to win?
I didn't really have time to think about it. That last 5 minutes of that game was insane. So I was just thinking, next play, next save. I love that that's like one of Giller's top moments, the greasiest goal you'll ever see from him. He scored so many nice goals and just a greasy one off the back of the skate. But yeah, that was huge. That was really exciting. And once that goal went in, I just went, all right, 5 minutes. Keep the puck out on that for 5 minutes. You can do that. No problem. So, that was, just a relief to see that goal go in.
You guys end up, I believe it was 2-0, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yeah. I think Millie scored an empty netter after one of the Jonesies made a nice dish to him there.
You had one shutout in the regular season, and we sort of talked about the struggles that it is to play in front of a good team and stay locked in. In a game like that against a team as good in front of a sold-out crowd at Cal Tire Place, how gratifying was it to win a back-to-back league titles and do so, for you as a goaltender, do it in absolute perfect form?
Yeah, that felt really good. There had been, some doubts to myself. Playoffs were tough just mentally. Just as each series went, I was, 20 years old and thinking, oh shit, I don't have a scholarship yet. Like, what's going to happen? So that's something that's kind of always in the back of your mind. And like I said, it kind of takes a lot mentally to get myself geared up. At least it did back then. I kind of figured it out in college, but it was a little too late by then. But it really took a lot to get me geared up with those big elimination games, Game 7 kind of things, like the Jonesy chirp me. I love the spotlight. But yeah, I do. I absolutely do. Game 7, elimination game. That's where I'm going to show up and not so much for myself, but just I don't want to be the guy that lets the boys down. Because such a great season, and Game 7s are insane, man. This single game elimination, anything can happen, and there's so much fun, but with so much stress. But I think just as a hockey player, as a competitor, that's the kind of the moment you live for. You dream of a Game 7 at home for a championship, and fun.
You're in a market like Vernon where, I had the privilege, not this past season, but the year before, it was the most recent Game 7 since yours at home. And sold out barn, it wasn't for a league title like that. To do it in Vernon, you said that was always the market you wanted to be. Did it sort of surpass your expectations when you get the win at home, you get the shutout at home, you get the league title at home, and you get to do so in front of a crowd that puts you guys on a pedestal for sure?
Yeah, no, I totally do, man. That fan base there is so cool. And well, I think standing room only that night. I'd never seen it so packed, and it was absolutely buzzing there. That was a lot of fun, and that I think, you know, you always say, oh, you don't pay attention to the crowd, but when they're buzzing like that, it's a game 7. That, I mean, that just hypes you up even more and just really gets you dialed. So that was a really cool experience, and just having the trophy around and kids coming down and banging on the glass. I think we had the Aussie section during that year as well, like the Silver Star Aussies were in and doing chants, and it was just a wild environment. It was super fun.
Wins like that probably set the bar for Vernon minor hockey now. Well, being 2020, 10 years ago, you know, 10-year-olds or 13-year-olds now probably remember that moment more so than most. You guys don't get a chance to enjoy it for too long, though, because, you know, it's another step on the way to what we hope is going to be a repeat. You run into a very good Spruce Grove team in the Doyle Cup. The year before, you had a heck of an experience against Grand Prairie in the small building of the Civic. You guys sweep.
That was wild. Yeah.
I mean, I guess let's talk about the Doyle a little bit. Your experience, again, probably quite different. The year before, small building, backup goaltender, crazy, crazy moments. This year, you're the starter, 7-game series against Spruce Grove. Probably a bit of a different form of chaos. But what are some of your fondest memories about the Civic one against Grand Prairie, and then some of your fond memories of the 7-game win over Spruce Grove?
Yeah, the Civic, dude, was so much fun. Like I said, I kind of enjoyed backing up and being with the boys and be able to chirp. I remember their goalie was insane. I was in his ear the entire time, and to see him snap at one point, I think during that line brawl, and he was skating back and forth to the crowd after he let in some terrible goals and giving him some of this. It was insane. There was the scrap. It's just everything is on top of you, and you could hear the guys chirping from the glass. I'm chirping. We're laughing with the boys next to me in the glass. Like it was just an insane moment. The Civic was, yeah, it's indescribable. Like I think the Jonesy said, we used to go up and tape our Twiggies in the crowd, but you get there and it's packed before game because there's no assigned seating or anything like that. It's just you can't duplicate that feeling. It's wild. The Doyle, like my year, I guess the 2010. Well, I blacked most of that out, to be honest. I think I was pretty garbage during that series. I don't think I played all that well. You know, we got it done in 7 games. It probably should have been, you know, a couple less. Not to take any credit away from Spruce Grove. They're a great team, but yeah, no, not me. I could have been better for sure during that series. So I kind of don't have a lot of memories from that. We won a game 7. We scored a lot of goals. I think. I don't know, 6 something or 7 something, but yeah, we got it done and just on to the next.
You get back to the national championship. This time, though, you don't go to the paradise of Victoria and Bear Mountain and all of the place like that has. You get to go. You get to go to Manitoba. You get to go to Dauphin. For you guys, though, that's still a hockey market. How did you sort of enjoy that? I mean, geographically quite different than where you were the year before, but in terms of like an intense hockey market, I would imagine a place like that's with their home team is probably second to none. What do you remember about those experiences?
Yeah, don't disrespect Dauphin, man. They got the RCAF museum. It's great. It's a great spot.
You don't have the ocean though.
Yeah, true. It's you know what? I think being Bear Mountain the year before it was awesome. I still remember the beds. Those are the greatest beds I've ever slept in. Dauphin a little different, but at the same time, you know, second year being at the RBC, we're there to do a job. Doesn't matter where we're playing. We're there to show up and win a championship. So, you know, we're hanging around the hotel for most of the time anyway. Just it doesn't matter where it was. You
guys end up finishing second in the round robin, but you get through on semifinal Saturday, and then you got a date with the host team in their building for a national championship. Before we say what the score was, because it wasn't close, what was the feeling like before that? What was the atmosphere like? What do you remember about, again, for you, this is your last junior hockey game. There's nothing else after. You can either end it on a high note or pretty darn low note. What do you remember heading into that hockey game about some of the nerves that you just you personally were starting to feel?
Yeah, you know what, nerves were gone at that point. I remember having a lot of nerves. The very first game we played Dauphin, we lost 6-5 in overtime, another game where I was garbage. And I remember Ferns and Willie, they had to do a lot of hand holding for me back in the day. They had a chat with me. They said, "You're the guy. We believe in you. Just go out there and do what you've done all year, and we'll win this thing." And once we got rolling, I got the shutout in the game against whoever it was against in the semis, and so that I was feeling good, riding high off of that. And honestly, I knew it just as a team, if we showed up and played our best game, that we were going to win. So came into that, you got a little bit of the jitters. Of course, it is potential, last game and the championship, and you're on TV. But yeah, I went in with a decent amount of just calmness and confidence going in that.
Dave shares a story back in his episode of the podcast that early in that game he had a glorious chance to score, didn't score, and then in the moment he's thinking, "Oh my gosh, what if that's it? It's a national championship game." At the end of the day, it didn't matter. You guys were catching fire. But I mean, it's probably one of those things where it feels like every moment is magnified until the game gets to a certain point. Was that the same thing for you? Just knowing that you have to be as perfect as possible because the game has such magnitude.
Yeah, I mean, in a game like that, for a player, they want to get out there and make a nice pass, get a shot on net, make a hit. I just want to get out there and make a save as quick as I can. As soon as you make that first save, kind of settles you in, relaxes you, and things are going to be okay. And my mindset, the whole playoffs, just our team was so good, man. And again, my mindset was just make the saves when you got to make the saves, and the fellas will do the rest. And they certainly did in that game.
What point did you know it was over?
I think Jonesy scored. I think it was maybe 3-0 at that point, and then I made a bit of a save on a wrapper. Then Jonesy went down. They had a 2-on-1. I think it was Kellen that his shot hit chest, and then he had a nice little just out of midair, knocked it in, made it 4-rip. I mean, he scored the 3 goals in under a minute? I feel like it might have been.
Have it. It's close.
Yeah, it was something. So once we had 4 on the board, I went, okay, we got this now. I think I'm not going to land 5 goals. I think we're good. So yeah, it was that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun to be up that much halfway through the second. And I got to give props to Corey Kane as well, because he scored. I think the first or the second goal, he got that quick streak going. Low blocker. You'd always score on me in practice there, and I'd say, Corey, do it in a game, man. And he did it in a game, so I got to give credit to him.
What was it any different hoisting the trophy the second time as opposed to the first time? I mean, this was your run with it. You guys accomplished the goal that you guys had set out to do. Was there any differences in your mind? Was it a little bit more gratifying to do it as the guy and be the one in goal?
Oh, certainly. Yeah. It was definitely a sweeter feeling. It's not that I didn't feel a part of it. I was just a part of it in a different way in the first year. But to be the guy in net and, get to be the guy shedding the gear and everybody comes to celebrate with the goalie, that's a lot of fun. So it was definitely a sweeter feeling, and my dad was able to be there too. So that was awesome to do in front of him. And yeah, it was just a really good feeling to be able to just do that on the national stage.
There's not too many people that end their junior careers with wins and national championships. You are one of the few people, I guess, that win multiple rings. Being what it is, obviously 10 years later, 11 years later, you still look at those every once in a while and sort of remember the moments, or are those one of those things you'll break out, share with your kids one day, or just break out at parties when you're trying to entertain somebody?
I'm not gonna lie, I actually got them on the shelf. I took them out a little while back. My wife was bragging about her national championship ring, so she played CIS basketball with UBC. So I went, "Oh, you got one? Well, I got 2." So I had to pull those out and put them on the shelf just to flex on her a little bit. So yeah, that is. The ring we got the second year, the dunk balled out for that. That was an incredible, just a huge, beautiful thing. So that's certainly a cool memory. I'll probably put them away in the bookshelf at some point, but definitely something to show the kids. And yeah, it's just a very cool experience. Maybe every now and then when I got a few beers in me, I'll throw them on the fingers and see how it feels. But yeah, it's pretty cool.
You talked a little bit about not having a scholarship towards the end of that season. Looking at the numbers, it was, you end up going to SFU. I mean, share whatever you feel comfortable sharing, but what was the process like for you in terms of trying to get a Division One? What sort of went through there, and what was the recruitment like for you to go to SFU in the BCIHL?
It was, yeah. I mean, not having a scholarly was pretty devastating. I mean, Division One NCAA was like I said earlier, I think my goal since I was maybe 12 or 13. I remember I had one. I thought I had a chance with one D1 team, Clarkson. They had kind of been watching and talking to me a little bit. They showed up for the very first game where I played like crap against Dauphin at RBC, and I think the scout flew home the next day. I didn't see me turn around at all there. So D1 dreams, see ya. That was tough. I actually ended up going to UBC for my first year out of there, but that was a surprise. They talked to me earlier in playoffs, but at that point, I was thinking NCAA only. They had a dub guy that ended up turning pro that was committed, so they gave me a call near the end of summer and we're just like, hey, do you want to come play? And I was like, oh yeah, but I better get my ass in shape because I kind of been sulking celebrating and then a little bit sulking towards the end of summer there, not really knowing what my future was going to look like. So I showed up there very, very out of shape. UBC, they always make you do the grouse grind, and I was definitely the last guy by a lot of minutes. It was pretty embarrassing. That was an interesting experience. Didn't really get along with the coach all that much, and I never actually got into a game there. And it was another kind of struggling team situation. And I just remember going like, hey man, I won a natty champion last year. Like, can you let me spin for a game? And I didn't get put in, not even the very last game of the season when we were already out. And at that point I knew, you know what, this isn't for me. Maybe I should have hung them up with the national championship as my last game. But I ended up going to SFU just because I had a bunch of local friends on the team, and it just seemed like a good, just kind of good spot to, because I wasn't ready to give up on hockey, but I definitely knew that pro or anything like that wasn't in my future. So SFU, it was a fun spot. We had a fun time there, a great group of guys, and just kind of ride out the hockey career there.
You had to get numbers. The team seemed like they've always been good when it came to the BCIHL. What was the caliber of hockey like? I mean, for you to go from, the cream of the crop of the junior A circuit all the way through national championship, the short time you got with UBC, what was the level like for the BCIHL? A lot of people really focus U Sports in Division One, but there are good players that, sort of filter through, whether it's academically or whatever the reason is. Players that play there.
I think every year it's gotten progressively better. I know the first year I got there, it was mostly kind of maybe second, third, fourth line junior A guys and maybe a top line junior B guy. So it was kind of that caliber. I mean, I'd say, final year, the Vipes were a better squad than the first year team, but Vipes were silly. So there's not much of a comparison. But I think my second year, we got some dub guys. A third year, even kind of higher BCHL guys and guys coming back from D1 hockey that just wanted to stay local. So it did get better each year, and it was competitive. I think it was only 6 teams or something like that. So you learned to hate each other pretty quickly, and had some heated games with Selkirk. Those were our big rivals, kind of the Penticton to us there. So it was fun and some decent hockey. Again, not too comparable to NCAA, but we did have a couple of showcases there. We played some, I think we played North Dakota and Princeton and a couple NCAA teams, and we held our own. We lost, but we held our own. They were decently tight games. So it's good hockey. I haven't checked out a game in a couple of years, but I gotta assume it's keeping and getting better every year.
We sort of finished that up. Did you give any thought about going pro, or by that point, you've been playing since you were a young boy, and now you're, in your early 20s, were you pretty comfortable with the decision to sort of to step away and maybe give something else a look?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, hockey had been my identity basically since I was 6 years old. So moving on was definitely a tough choice. Had a little bit of the shmeshin, a little bit of the depression for the year after that, because it's just, it's kind of like who am I without hockey every single day? It's kind of just a very weird transition. But I knew it was time to, to focus on real life and getting a real career, because hockey wasn't ever going to pay the bills. I briefly thought about playing for the Louisiana Ice Gators of the SPCHL for a little bit there, but that was quickly dismissed when I saw how much money they made.
The Ice Gators, the cold-blooded reptile in ice. I think they just dead. That's interesting. You and I actually have paths that didn't cross, but rode parallel. You took the very cool decision, and I fully support this decision. After that, you go to BCIT and take the same program I took, and you come out with a diploma or something of that effect in radio.
I think that's it. Yeah.
What made you want to do that? I mean, it's a fantastic career, and everybody says that you clearly had the personality for it. What did you enjoy about taking the program?
Yeah, well, like the boys will say, I like talking. I've always liked talking and just making jokes and just kind of messing around. And the play-by-play at SFU is also Brian Weeb. You know him, right? He's program director or assistant program director at the time at the BCIT broadcast radio program there. And he said, "Hey, Gordo, I know you don't shut your mouth, so maybe take a look at this. Maybe this be a good option for you." And I checked it out. It looked awesome. Went there and did the 2-year program, and it was a lot of fun. It could maybe be a year and a half, to be honest, but nice to have that time to mess around. And I met some really cool people there as well. And it's just it's a good spot. It was fun. Those were some fun years at school.
Probably a little different than the experience at SFU in terms of academics. I took the program, really enjoyed it, but I'm with you. Could have been maybe a little bit shorter. Now what are you doing? You were able to take that. Not everybody gets a chance to stay in the Lower Mainland. A lot of people, at least in my experience, had to filter off to little towns in northern BC or northern Alberta just to get a kick of the can. Present day, you and I are technically co-workers. We both
Jimmy P, right?
We work for the same company.
Dang. Yeah.
What was that like for you? I mean, for those who don't know, you're the morning show co-host on JRFM in Vancouver.
Yeah, 93.7 JR Country with Clay and Karen there. It's been doing that for 3, maybe 4 years coming on now, and that's been a lot of fun. I remember that speech the teachers would all give, like, "Hey, you're not going to get a job in Vancouver. You're going to have to move to Flin Flon or wherever." And I was most of the kids, right, were kind of 18, 19 in that program, and I was 25 or 26, and I went. I'd had a long-term girlfriend locally. We were living together at the time, and my mindset from the start was, "Nah, screw that. I'm not leaving. I'm going to make this work. I'm going to find a job here." And lucky enough, got an internship. That's part of the program, right? You got to finish out. Got an internship at JR Country. Ended up on weekends. Did a year and a half of weekends, and then got that bounce and got the promo to the morning show. And it's been a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
When you sort of look at it, I mean, I'm sure that's not exactly where you thought you'd end up with, but I mean, it's hard to ask for anything different when you get to do a career that you love to do, right? You love playing hockey. Can't do that anymore. You found something else that you love to do. I mean, walk us through what it's like and the transition that you sort of went through to dive into the radio thing. You had one skill set, now you've had to find and learn another one. What was that process like for you?
It was cool. It was interesting. It was fun to. I went into BCIT thinking I wanted to be a sports guy. I wanted like Jay and Dan. They were in their prime back then, and I was kind of wanted to be those guys. And so I went in with that kind of as my goal. And then I kind of realized that if you're going to live in Vancouver and work in sports radio, you're going to have to talk to Canucks fans, and they are the worst. So I quickly got talked out of that, but just not having to deal with that. And then went into the music side, and it's fun, man. Like I said, I like to talk crap, like to make jokes, like to just be a goof. And that's somehow I found a career that I can do that for a couple hours a day and then go home and golf and then do it again the next day. So it's been a weird transition. It's not something I expected, but I'm definitely really enjoying it.
I'm going to put you on the spot, and feel free to say no, but if you say no, Viber fans will quickly erase you from their history. When team is in the area, this is an open invitation to join me on the broadcast and get back into the sports thing, because we won't talk to Canucks fans
Yeah, all right, man.
Down for that?
I'd do some color if I'm in the area for sure.
Awesome. That's a straight deal. Well, usually at the end of these interviews, we sort of encourage you to, closure thing at the end of the junior career. All of a sudden, you've been with this franchise for a year and a half and you've gone through two significant parts of their history. And then all of a sudden you're gone and it's gone and it's hard to get back. Do you have anything you'd like to share or say to the Viper fans? They've sort of taken this podcast and this show and really enjoyed catching up with the guys they don't get to see anymore and hear the stories that they may have missed. Do you have anything you'd like to share with Viper fans who are going to get a chance to watch this tomorrow?
Yeah, well, I would just thank you. Everything there was amazing. I mean, Duncan Ray set up such a great program, and Ferns and Willie, the whole thing was just so amazing. The fans are a big part of that. I mean, there's been fans that have been doing that, going to those games for years, and longer than I played the hockey. They've been going and watching Vipers, games. Just thank you for letting me be a part of that. You cheered me, you booed me a couple times, deservedly so. I had a bad 5-hole. It happens. What are you gonna do? But yeah, the support was insane. Both years I was there, it was just an absolute pleasure, and just thank you, and keep doing it for the boys there that are coming and playing now, and hopefully you get to a little bit of playoff hockey next year for Vernon, because that's certainly a bummer what happened this year, and especially feels for the 20s. But yeah, the fans there were amazing. Bill it if you can, because it's such an amazing experience. And yeah, Vernon's, it's always going to have a special spot in my heart, and plus it's pretty close to Predator Ridge, so I'll be up there a fair amount.
Well, Graeme, we really appreciate the time. Great catching up with you and sharing the stories. Thanks for doing this, and I'm sure we'll do it again when the season gets going.
All right, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.